Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. Sorry for the low production values, but this is somewhat topical, and I feel like it's a message people need to hear. So, a law is only as good as its enforcement method. If there is no way to enforce a law, then it functionally doesn't exist. In the United States, we've gotten very used to laws being sort of selectively enforced. Um, like, say, speed limit laws or any sort of minor law for public behaviors that are technically illegal, but people do them all the time. And unless you're doing something else wrong, you're probably not going to get tagged for them, right? Those kind of selective laws, that's really just a way for law enforcement to be able to harass people when they decide they want to. There's way too much discretion and way too many laws prescribing what other people's behavior ought to be when they are just vastly unenforceable. But it goes a step beyond that. When a law is intended to protect the citizen from the state instead of the state from the citizen, or the public from the citizen, when a law is made to protect us from our country, from the government, if the government decides to stop enforcing its own laws, we have no recourse. I mean, other than like Civil War revolution kind of shit. But, I wouldn't recommend that when it comes to what violence and war, the most vulnerable. Always the one who pays the biggest price. So we're already dealing with a lot. Maybe don't put more on us, but I don't know what the right thing to do is. I honestly don't. It just feels like there are still so many people who don't understand that the assumptions that they've lived their life by are pointless, I mean, like, here's the thing. You believe you have a right to the First Amendment, to free speech. But who gives you that right? How do you enforce that right? How do you personally enforce it? You can't. You just can't. You need the state to do that. And if the state is the one who is trying to undermine that right, you don't have anything. You don't have any recourse. I have been watching a lot of Skip Intro the last month or two, which is a really nice channel that has a series called Copaganda. Goes over police procedural type shows and whatnot, and discusses the greater implications of them. And it's really made me think a lot about what justice is, what laws are, and how they've been presented to us as these sort of unassailable, immutable things that we could trust. There's a lot of people who still, that's the way they view this whole situation. And, excuse me, I'm sorry. There's nothing sacred. There's nothing sacred, you know? We have a situation where one political ideology has captured all levels of the state federally, and a great deal of local and state governments as well, and does not care about what the Constitution says. I mean, we have a president who has literally said, we could throw out the Constitution if it doesn't say what we want it to say. Like, there's nothing sacred. You know, there's no guarantees that we can count on. And we still have people who are trying to act like it's the same old, like it's business as usual. You know, I made a video some time ago saying that either Chuck Schumer would be pushed out of the Democrat Party or I would. And I think probably when people see that, they think that I'm like saying, you know, he should be pushed out of the Democratic Party or else, or, you know, like an ultimatum. And no, I'm just describing what's going to happen. If the Democrat Party is the party of people still trying to play parliamentary games and, you know, thinking that we're still living in the same society that we were 10 years ago or whatever, I have no place in that party. It's not my party anymore, you know? I've grown beyond the belief in our norms and that they must always hold. The scales have fallen from my eyes, and I see, oh yeah, all the normal stuff is gone. And Chuck Schumer and I just don't belong in the same political party because he doesn't believe that this is the emergency that it is. He doesn't see what's going on as, you know, potentially as existentially destructive the way I do. And, you know, I still see a lot of people wanting to be like, oh, the reason that the Democrats lost was because they were too pro-Palestine. And it's like, guys, you got it exactly backwards. They lost because they were too pro-status quo and not enough pro-Palestine. And it's interesting seeing this whole Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani, the guy that's running for New York City mayor, as sort of this like potential face of a new progressive left-leaning Democratic Party. And I think it's such a reach because he's running for the mayor of one city in a state that is very blue traditionally, and a city that's traditionally pretty blue. Like, I don't necessarily think that the voters that voted for him are representative of all potential Democratic voters across the country necessarily. And I I feel like we get a lot more progressive leaning politicians from places like New York. Like, this is also where AOC is from, if one will remember. And I would not say that AOC is a good representative of the party as a whole, or Bernie is a good representative of the party as a whole. They are the, like, sort of reasonable tokens in a sea of people who want power and are more than happy to be feckless liberal apologists for whatever is necessary for them to maintain their seat of power. And I think that it's just so unfeasible that just simply voting is going to save anyone here. The one thing I do find heartening is seeing people out in the streets, because I will say that the Republicans do lead their base around, but the base also does lead the Republicans around. And if they react very, very strongly to something, strongly enough, eventually it will impact how the politicians respond, which is not something I think that the Democrats are doing. So we shall see. But we can just throw the idea that that's illegal as a way of responding to something horrible that Donald Trump or his administration wants to do as, like, useful in any way. Just throw that out. It's not. Stop doing it. And, time to shift your paradigms a bit, babe. Well, just a little short one for you. I don't know when I'll be back. I've had a headache for 2 weeks now, and I'm having a shoulder flare, but this thought just was in my brain and I couldn't sleep, so here we are. Love you, family members. Take care. Bye.